All right, I'm Dave Rat, and today let's take a look at fixing some microphones. All right, so this is an M88 that's marked grill, and it sounds, let's turn these speakers up. Hey, 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 oh, that sounds like an M88 to me. It's hot as can be, and hey, all right. What's wrong with this grill? It looks beautiful to me. Oh, I see what's wrong with the grill. It's missing the screws. So since it's missing the screws, let's go ahead and take a peek inside of here and make sure it all looks fine. Point off. Okay, the foam is intact. It's not rotted. It looks pretty good. It just needs grill screws. Now, if you don't have Beyer dynamic grill screws, finding a screw that fits that is a big pile of unobtainium. Fortunately, over the years, I have kept Beyer screws. Now, these screws fit on a wide variety of Beyer mics, so when a Beyer mic dies, I don't throw the mic out. I take the parts that are usable or I save the mic. Now, these are these screws that fit the Beyer mics. I don't want to lose any of these. And I've got two different sizes here, big and little. And the grill takes the little screw. And this is a tiny little guy. So I'm going to grab 3 of these. Take the rest of them and put them in my little case here. It's extremely important to use the right tools when working on microphones. Because if you use the wrong screwdriver, it's so easy to strip out, and once you do, it's just a nightmare. Getting another screw or getting the screw out, all of it just turns terrible. So you can really tell if you've got the right screwdriver if you can get the screw to cling onto it. Like if this screw will stay on the end of the screwdriver, you've really got the right one, like so. And that's a flathead screw, so that's a good sign. And I'm not going to tighten it up all the way until I get all 3 of them in, because they can be a little tricky. If the grill's been bent, you might have to rotate the grill to match the bend. This is going well so far. We've got another M88 here that says 3-legged, or this says 1-legged. 3-legged. So we're going to get inside of one of these. All right. And we're definitely not going to want to strip it or mar the screw in any way. We want this to look as clean as possible. Now these do need to be snug, because just like on that 431, this top grill is part of the shielding for the mic, and if these screws don't make a good electrical connection as well as mechanically hold the grill in place, the mic may buzz or hum, and also the screws may fall out, which would be undesirable. All right, good. This should do it. We should have ourselves an M88. All right, that sounds like an M88 should sound. Big, bold microphone. Now that we've been inside, now we've dealt with one M88, let's take a look at the other one. So, plug this in, move these little rattling screwdrivers away from me. This says bad 1-legged. And it sounds like it is bad 1-legged. All right. I hear a lot of high end. So let's go ahead and get inside this and see what it looks like. So the way an M88, oh, this one's missing its screws as well, which comes in handy for us. It'll save us a little work. So we'll pull the grill off, gently work it off of here. And this one's not in as good a shape. You can see that the foam has come up, and it's been removed. It's kind of pinched here, but we can take this grill off, this foam off. Try not to damage it. We'll reuse this. It's not so ruined that we can't use it again. We can store that right inside of the grill here. You can see that the capsule is quite large. This has got over an inch in diameter. The capsule is probably 1.25 inches, probably 35 millimeters or so. And it's got these hard rubber, four hard rubber spacers up top, which push against the grill, which stops the capsule from running into the grill. And we can see this very large humbucking coil that's around the outside, and the very fine mesh of the phase plug over the capsule here. All right, so to get into an M88, if I remember correctly, we want to pull out this Phillips screw here. And the next, that'll just remove this XLR. So this XLR is kind of floating. We don't really want to do much other than that. The next thing to get into an M88 is you're going to grab the grill and grab the mic shaft and twist. And it actually unscrews. Now while you're unscrewing this, I talked about the wires twisting up. We want this to be loose and spin with it. Cool. So there we go. I've unscrewed it. And now we should be able to remove this housing here. Now this is solid brass and it's heavy. I mean, this is really nice. This has got some weight to it. I really, it feels like it's just a well-built mic. Quite nice. All right, set that off to the side. Here we've got our XLR connector, and here you can see the tie between pin 1 and the housing, which gives us that shielding. Here this is sealed up, and these are glued in, and then this is a plastic plug that does not vent. So there's actually a base chamber behind this M88 capsule that is not vented, at least in that area. Now, if I wanted to go further, I would peel this glue out. Depending on how far I have to go, we might have to do it. It'd peel that glue out so these wires are free, so then the capsule can be lifted off of the housing. See if we can get this lifted out. So the capsule should rise up a bit, but we don't want to pull too hard because we're going to run into these wires being pulled tight, and we don't want to break those wires. So that's as far as I can get without doing removing the glue. But what I'm trying to do here is get to those 3 connections. So one wire comes up and hits one of these solder connections, which goes to one end of the humbucking coil. The other end of the humbucking coil will come down, usually goes to the center tab, and connects to one end of the voice coil wire. And then that voice coil wire, which is wound in the opposite direction of the humbucking coil, the other end of that voice coil wire ends up at the other tab, which then goes down. So that the humbucking coil and the voice coil are in series and wound in opposite directions. So that any noise that's infused on one would be infused in the other in this equal and opposite manner, such that it cancels itself out, kind of like a balanced line, but done with electromagnetic airwaves. So what we want to do is figure out whether or not the issue here is electrical or mechanical. And there's some tricks we can do to determine whether or not it's electrical. And if it's not electrical, then it's got to be mechanical. So I've got this working here. Hey, I can hear it. And it's thin. So I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug this. Be careful not to break those wires. And I'm going to put a Y adapter on here. And this is a female to dual male Y adapter. I'm going to take one of those males and plug it into what we're listening to. And we're going to double check, make sure it works. Hey. Now we've got a spare male connector. One-legged is when either pin 2 or pin 3 is not connected. You're coming out of your mixing board, you're going to the amp, one of those is not connected, and the sound will often be very thin sounding or lower in level. what we'll want to do here is check to see if that's the case. So if it truly is one-legged, and we've got a voice coil with two hots coming out of it, or a voice coil going into a humbucking coil with the two hots coming out, so the two units together act as a single unit, then these are the two hots coming down. If it's one-legged, that means one side of it's disconnected and the other side is still connected. What we can do is, by putting this Y connector on here, we can short pin 3 to ground. And then we should see that's pin 2. Hey, 2, 2, 2. So with pin 3 shorted to ground, we still get signal, which means that if it's one-legged and pin 3 was the only leg and pin 2 wasn't going anywhere, we should not get signal. So now we can do pin 2 to ground. Hey, 2, 2, 2. Which means that we're getting signal on pin 3 and signal on pin 2, which means this is not one-legged. We're getting signal on both. Now you could put a meter on it, but if you put a meter on it and let's say it's shorted, let's say there's a short across the voice coil, but not affecting the humbucking coil, or there's a transformer in line somewhere, you would meter the transformer. You would not necessarily be metering the voice coil. Now we could try and put some meter probes on these little connections here, but there's some tiny little wires there that are very easy to break, and we don't need to do that. We can see that we have we do not have an electrical issue, as best I can tell. So that means we have worst case scenario, which is the magnet has shifted. This mic got dropped or banged. So what I'm going to do now is remove the glue and see if I can free up these wires here. I see. So that plug is just to pin the wires. Now we should be able to free up. We should be able to free up the capsule. Let's store everything in the ground. These wires. Here's the vent from the back of the capsule. Coming down, there's a little bit of fiberglass inside of here, a little bit of foam of some sort. And then this is the chamber. This is probably, you should be able to hear this. What I did is I blew in there, and that should move the diaphragm. Let's see how that sounds. Hey. The next thing we need to do is look inside of there. But the problem is, in order to look inside of there, we've got these 3 ultra fine wires. I mean, these things are fractions of a human hair under this piece of tape leading up to the voice coil and the humbucking coil. And if I do anything here, I'm going to break one of those wires, and the probability of me being able to resolder them is very low. What I think has happened here is I think that the magnet has shifted. I think the pole piece has come undone and moved off to the side, and it's clinging to the side magnet and pinching the voice coil. And the voice coil now no longer can move freely. One side of that is pinned, and it's moving at an angle. Oh, this is neat. The porting for this that I was blowing into on this tube slides into another tube here that's got more of this wadding, this filler, which then goes down into this chamber here, which is what I was expecting, which is this chamber is like the bass box. It's a big subwoofer box, which is helping this mic get all that low end. And so as I pull this out, these wires, this little thing will slide into that chamber there. So I went ahead and put the plug back in. The next thing I'm going to do is take this little dangly thing and let it drop into the mic housing there. And then we'll screw this on while letting the XLR not spin. Give that a tighten. And then to get this XLR piece on, we'll actually just plug a connector into it so that we can spin this into place. Okay. This guy here is not gonna make it through today. Let's do one more for this session. Let's take a look at this guy. Yep. Hey, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Hey. Okay, we got nothing. So the first thing I like to do is, got nothing, let's hit it. Nothing. All right, let's go ahead and pull off this tape. Maybe it's a tape. Now, here's something interesting. This is a pretty beefy mic. I mean, this has got some definite heft to it. Something we'd want to kick drum, right? Let's take a look inside. Beta 52. Hey, wait a minute. That looks just like an SM58 capsule. For as big as the mic is, it doesn't have a lot of diaphragm in there. It's less than 1 inch. The M88 has got a much bigger diaphragm. So the Beta 52, it's got a huge body, a giant grill, and a capsule that's not too much different than the size of an SM58. So here's a capsule from an SM58 or SM57, and we can see that the capsules actually are quite similar. And if I was to pull this top off of both, I'll bet you they have a lot of similarities. Anyways, let's go ahead and look inside of this Beta 52. So to get inside of here, what we want to do is grab a screwdriver, and you should be able to pry this glue up here. And look at that. We've got our body of the mic. And this is interesting. There's no high pass filter on this, and there's no low pass filter, but there is a circuit in here. And I can see a choke, 2 capacitors, a resistor, and a screw that mounts it. Let's go ahead and pull that thing out. And look at this, we can see the problem. Here's a red wire not attached to anything. Look at that, cool as can be. We're gonna be able to fix this no problem. Now what's interesting about these mics is they actually have a equalization circuit. They have a small capsule in a large housing, and then they put an EQ that hollows it out and gives it that kind of pre-EQ'd kick drum sound. All right, so let's go ahead and fix this mic, and hopefully this will get it working. Okay, let's see if this works. Hey, 2. All right, we have a working microphone. Beautiful. That was pretty straightforward. Now let's see if we can get it back together and keep it running while we do so. I will take this circuit board and put it down in here. I would say ideally this wouldn't happen, and maybe the wires could use a little bit of glue on them. I'm not going to do it here, but it is something to, if I see this happen again, I will add into my repair method, I will add putting some silicone rubber or silicone glue on there. And again, getting the right screwdriver that holds the screw, remounting that, and then these little thin wires here just seem to be doing little thin things, and we don't want to pinch those. They really are a lot longer than we thought. Now this was glued in. Now the question is, does it need to be glued in again? Or can we get away without gluing it in? Okay, so it says top there, so I lined that top up, and it seems to want to do that, want to stay in that position. Now this thread here seems to stick out quite a bit, so I'm hoping that the thread will go down and put pressure on that plastic and not rattle, and so we don't have to put some adhesive in there. And it sounds like it is rattling a little bit. Oops. And we'll see if there's anything else rattling. No, so it does want to be glued in. All right, so one of the little glue, I've got a little bit of the silicone RTV sealant and a tiny little tube. I would say that you could probably use just about anything you want that is removable. Something that isn't going to be, it's going to be hard. Something that stays a little soft. Silicone glue is good. You could even use like caulking, or don't use epoxy or super glue. Use something that you can tear away later. I really don't like these wires. They're just as flimsy and in the way as they could possibly be. Okay, so I've got the RTV sealant in there. I'm going to line that up with the top. And put this in. And I probably would have, if I thought of it, I would have put a little RTV on those wire joints too. Okay, so let's go ahead and test it, and then we will call it a day. Hello, hello, hello. All right, we got ourselves a Beta 52 working, and we got that scooped out response, and we get the highs and the lows, hey, 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 and not a lot of mids. All right, fun. Mic repair, I got plenty more. I'll do another session or two like this. And yeah, please comment, subscribe. Let me know whether you like my videos chopped up and quick, or you want me to kind of run slower in more real time, or somewhere in between. And yeah, I love comments, I love input. Tell me what I can do to keep these things going and fun and interesting, and I really appreciate all the comments and positivity I get back from this. Cool.